My name is Casey, and I really like Animal Crossing. So much, in fact, that a friend in the community recently asked me, how much would I have to pay you to decorate my entire Animal Crossing island? To which I replied, am I allowed to make a video on this? Oh my fudging god. Well, now I have to do a good job. On July 16th, I received a package in the mail containing an awesome Zelda-themed Switch Lite that contained the save data for the island I'd be working on. After transferring the file over to one of my Switches so I could capture the footage for the video, I was ready to get started. The person's island I was asked to work on is Kitsunite, a longtime friend in the community who has often joked on stream about me decorating her island over the years and finally made it happen. During the stream where she donated to me, I learned that she wanted a normcore island in the cherry blossom spring season. If you don't already know, normcore is a term used to describe a basic, natural environment for an island. It focuses on a lot of default paths, fences, and small lived-in areas that feel very open to explore. She insisted that I use my own island as inspiration when creating hers, while also requesting a few specific areas to be made, such as a campsite covered in bamboo trees, a rock garden made from the ones you can hit for materials, and more. Other than this small list of requirements, I was basically free to decorate how I'd like. With the information given to me, I was confident going into this project, but later you'll see a handful of problems I ran into when designing, as well as the entire tour of the island I ended up making. But before we get to that, I wanted to take a tour of the island in its current state. The day I got her Switch, I spent some time walking around the base version of her island. The first thing I had noticed that she had started to make was an extended plaza branching out from her resident service building. To the right of this, 6 spots existed where she was attempting to create a rock garden but didn't have any luck with getting the rocks to spawn. I walked to the left side of her island following a long path and found a neighborhood in the early stages of development. Other than this neighborhood, the rock garden, and the plaza, there hadn't been too much decorating, which to me was a good thing. Because of the lack of development and terraforming on the island, I had the creative freedom to make what I wanted without having to move around or destroy too much. After wandering around a bit more, I took a screenshot of her map and brought it into Photoshop. Here I would start to design a new layout for her island. Now I know this is a pretty sketchy drawing, but this is the rough idea that I'd be trying to follow when designing her island. An updated plaza and city area, a campsite in the top right corner, 2 villager homes in the city, a different neighborhood in the bottom left corner, and a new farming area in the top left. Between all of these major landmarks, various gravel and dirt paths would connect them together that match the simple normcore aesthetic she wants, but still have a nice personal touch of design to them without feeling too empty. So let's start making it. A simple decorating tip I've always told people who ask for them is to always start designing in small areas that branch out from these when continuing work on the island. With this in mind, I decided to start at the plaza. I began by slowly getting rid of the existing brick layout and adding down a custom path I had found. When placing down the tiles, I wanted to make something new while retaining the original vision she had started in her first design. I updated the fountain with a different style and tested out layouts for where I'd put trees, fencing, and other items around the area. I started walking to see where I'd want the path to wrap around and where it would break off in inclines leading up into the second level of the city. The next day, I started terraforming the higher part of the city where I would run into my first problem. I wanted to make sure there was a path that wrapped all the way around the island, and if I were to do this, I could only terraform out to a certain point on the eastern side of the island. This little area I'm currently standing in meant to be a place for the Able Sisters store, but there just wasn't enough space here no matter how much I tried to get it to fit. By the end of the day, I decided to completely remove this hangnail of terraforming and use this open section on the ground level to place the store. On day 3, I found some new path codes for the island and tested out some of them on the second level where I planned to place 2 of the villagers' homes. After deciding this path would look pretty good, I placed everything down in a way that felt the most natural for a person to walk around. Here you can see where I envisioned the 2 villager homes with a path that wraps around behind the resident service building and ending at Nook's Cranny. Now I know I've spent 5 days on this area of the island alone, but since this was going to look like the most developed part of the island, I wanted to make sure I got it just right. I did this by placing down flowers and other furniture items here and there that make the island feel organically lived in. After getting close to a final version of the city section I envisioned, the next step was figuring out the rivers that would run and connect towards the middle section of the island. For the most part, I like to design rivers to feel like they're naturally formed and less surrounded by man-made structures. Because of this, I made sure that the river closest to the neighborhood felt natural and continued it as it wrapped around the backside of the city where a normal sidewalk would be. I also did my best to mimic the shape of these rivers when designing the second story layers that were surrounding them. By doing this, I hope to make the island feel more naturally developed by not having such harsh directional turns. I was now a week into working on our island and it was time to start the neighborhood, but I wanted to tear it down and do something that I've always wanted to design. For those familiar with this game and the community in it, you might have already recognized the popular path I used in the city was from the user Colin Crossing on Instagram. Kitsunite asked if I could use his cherry blossom path in a section of her island, and while scrolling to get a code for that, I came across this cul-de-sac neighborhood layout Colin used in another post. When I came across this picture, it reminded me that I never got to do this on my island, so given the space we had left for Kitsunite's neighborhood, I thought it would be perfect for it. I started removing the homes and the paths that were there before and made my own version of the cul-de-sac. After spending a good bit of time on placing the paths down, I took a look at my work and was excited at the thought I correctly laid this all out first try. But after noticing a bit of empty space towards the right side of the neighborhood, I realized that I would like this neighborhood a lot more if I took everything I placed down and moved it over by one single tile. After a few minutes contemplating if I really wanted to do this, I removed everything just to scoot it over to the right by one square. It was tedious, but doing so gave me more space to work with for the houses on the left side. I added some different fences and items for the neighborhood and continued my work into the next section. On day 8, I made the mistake of not realizing that Kitsunite only had 8 of her 10 villagers on her island. I figured a 9th villager would be getting placed up in the farm area I still needed to build, but that just left one last villager to be placed somewhere else. I started brainstorming ideas and landed on a fruit orchard that would be placed between the neighborhood and the farm in the back of the island. I started by making a small pond on this layer of the island to make sure Kitsunite had access to all collectible fish in the game. I then continued making a diagonal path that would lead back towards the city section of the island. The inspiration of this idea was again from a post I stumbled across Colin Crossing's page. He had this view that looked like a tall cliff standing over a bunch of trees in the distance, and I wanted this area to mimic that by looking over where the farm is on Kitsunite's island. This path continued and would eventually lead into a museum section of the island. Here we would find another area that Kitsunite specifically requested. She really liked how I laid out the flowers in my museum section and wanted something similar, so I mapped out a perfect spot for every flower in the game that would exist right outside of one of her museum entrances. I settled on how that design would look and went back to finish the orchard idea. I spent a little bit of time figuring out how I wanted to place at least 2 of every fruit tree and place some dirt paths around this well. With having figured out how I would design the second story, all that was left was the farm, museum, and campsite area, and by day 9, I didn't record that much. I felt at this point there was too much behind the scenes footage, and I knew I'd eventually be doing a large tour of the island and felt the reveal might be ruined for you watching if I revealed too much ahead of time. That means right now it is time for the big reveal. But before we get to that, I quickly wanted to say that if you're liking my Animal Crossing content and you're excited for whatever the new game is on the Switch 2, please subscribe and like the video. I'm sure a lot of you, like me, are very eager for whatever the next game is in the series, so if you want to be along for that journey, please subscribe. Now let's finally see the reveal of Kitsunite's new island. Alright, welcome to the grand reveal of Kitsunite's island. First thing you probably notice is that if you had a good eye and were paying attention, you notice that Kitsunite's character changed a little bit, her hair and stuff throughout the playthroughs, because I was testing out different things. First off, I just wanted to tell you, Kitsunite, that I got some outfits for you in these pro designs. I was trying to find things that kind of matched your casual style of what your character looked like when you first sent me your Switch. But if you hate how I designed your character, feel free to change it back to whatever you'd like. I just wanted to change it because it's like new island, new you look too. Okay, anyways, let's move up here. Here is the beginning of the city area where I first started working on everything. If we quickly come down here, I just wanted to talk about how, again, I don't really decorate beaches that much. I put a couple of palm trees down because Kitsunite didn't have any, but I think there's one other beach that like has a couple of items on it, but I don't like decorating beaches. I never have, so I always like keeping them blank and stuff like that. So here's what this looks like, but right off the bat, I successfully got you a rock garden, Kitsunite. So it took a little bit of trial and error and putting a bunch of items around and stuff like that. But yeah, here is the rock garden. It's not exactly how you had it laid out, but I wanted to keep it in the same spot relatively. And yeah, so here we go. As you can see, we have the pathing from Colin Crossing everywhere, like she requested. I ended up changing, you know, some of the fencing. I put these partitions down and stuff like that. You know, we added these little pink seats here, but this is a nice little chill area. There's a little vending machine and stuff to throw things away. I have these little cherry blossom petals on the ground everywhere in the city. And yeah, just a nice little kind of wraps around and leads you back to the airport from the resident service building. And then, yeah, there's the Able Sister store up here. To the right of this, I just have a lighthouse with a boat. Just thought this looked kind of cool. I think I remember seeing a post a while ago with this kind of design with the boat and the lighthouse, and I didn't know what to do with this long peninsula sticking out. here, so I just decided to do this. If there are fish over there that you can't reach, I'm sorry, you'll have to pick up everything, but I just thought it looked cool. Added this little dirt path here to kind of, if you're fishing and you're walking back and forth along the beaches, it kind of signifies that you're walking back and forth here. I put a little bench here, and I didn't really decorate too much. I think you said purple is your favorite colors, but, I have some purple flowers here, and then I left some places blank too because I know in the winter time, if you have your island decorated too much, the snowballs won't spawn anywhere, so I left some spaces where the snowballs could spawn, but other than that, that is this ground level here. If you go up to the second story here, you'll see I just have this little area that you can kind of just, look down on the sidewalk, pretend that your villager's looking out into the ocean from here, and then here is where Nook's Cranny is. I have the little baskets with the boxes of shipments they just got in. Here we have some more flowers and a bench. This is, I think I already kind of showed this off a little bit earlier in the video, but yeah, here's two of the villager homes here on the left. We have Raymond and who do you have here? Audie, I think it is. And yeah, this just wraps around. I wanted to keep it very open, similar to my island, and kind of similar to mine too, how I have 2 homes in my city area. I just wanted to do that for yours too, so I didn't have it feeling too cramped. I tried to pick 2 villagers that were most likely to live in the city area compared to everybody else. And then if you go out the city in the backside here, here is where I had the sidewalk that was next to the river I mentioned earlier, and this just wraps all the way back around, similar to the other side where the other bench was. I kind of just left it open for snowballs and stuff like that, but I do have these little cherry blossom trees, and I stunted their growth so they looked like little pink bushes on the back end here. So yeah, there you can see a tease to the campsite that we'll get to eventually in the back. But this area back here is just another long sidewalk, and this leads to nothing, just good for fishing and stuff like that. There's another bench over here with a little tiny library and stuff like that, but we'll get to that end here in a second. Let's continue on the ground level here and go towards the neighborhood section. Down here is another beach. Yeah, this is where I put a couple of items. If you happen to want to take some little photos, you can lay here. If you see another villager laying out here, it'd be kind of funny. And yeah, I got the little airport sign in case somebody gets lost, it's over there. And then 2 little palm trees showing you how to leave here. So crossing over this bridge will get us into the neighborhood, but we're going to go up first. So I have this dirt path here, another casual path that just, if you follow it to the back, there is a nice little picnic here next to the waterfall and the river. Maybe you'll find a villager back here or something sitting. That would be kind of cool. And then we walk over the stone bridge, which, by the way, you have that wood pathing down. I decided to just have a stone path going all the way around your island. And yeah, if we go over here is the cul-de-sac that we did have to move over by 1 tile, but here's how it ended up looking. I tried to pick the villagers who I thought would be best for here, but a lot of the villagers just have little things outside of their homes. It's not too decorated, but I wanted to have it slightly decorated and feel like it was all uniform together in this area. So this guy just has a trash can over here. There's a spot if you want to have him grow some flowers, we have that option. Some lights. We got Sherb's house here. He just has a flower outside. But yeah, I just wanted to have a little cul-de-sac for all the villagers. While I was building this, I have seen a lot of them wandering and walking around here, so kind of cool to see. This beach, again, don't like doing much with beaches, but I did add some coconut trees here, so and then here's Cap'n, and we're gonna ignore this fella on the beach here. So following this path upwards, again, I got this stone path going all the way around the island. We'll go up here in a moment. We just have another place to sit here, but this leads back to the farm area, and Kitsunite actually didn't want me to add the last 2 villagers because she does not like Rocket. I ended up filling in the last 2 plots for the orchard and the farm area because she only had 8 of her 10 villagers, and the people who auto-filled were Rocket and Becky is her name? Yeah, Becky and Rocket. So two, maybe not the best, but that's who we ended up getting. So Kitsunite, feel free to swap this person out for anybody. But here's the farm area, the finished one. I ended up having this dirt path kind of wrap around a little bit as you're kind of entering from this end of the farm. Like, you can obviously go up and straight to the house, but if you cut corners real quick, as if you're playing the game normally and you're like, oh, I need to get to my secret beach, like, I imagine you'd cut corners and go this way around instead, or maybe through the farm, I don't really know. But this is where her secret beach is, where Red will come visit. I try to hide it with trees and stuff like that so you wouldn't really see it on a normal day like this, but if Red was here, you would kind of see him peeking through the trees right there if you happen to walk over here and stuff. But now we'll head backwards backwards and go up this incline here that will start bringing us to the orchard. But here's the diagonal path that I tried getting, and while I was editing this video, I realized that Colin Crossing's page, I think the picture that I used as a reference was actually 3 stories high compared to mine that's only it's only up 1 level compared to his that was 2. I don't know if that's accurate or my eyes were bad or something like that, but I also know he used like not, you know, real trees for all the photos. A lot of them were just like the plants that, you know, gave the look of it being really high up in the air. But I thought the inspiration was really cool, and I like having this little overview. You know, you could also see Red's ship from here if he is here. So but continuing this way, if you go back down, I have a little sign here that says fruit. That's the little fruit trees, you know. You walk down here, there's a little fruit basket with a little bucket, and, you know, another plant starts here. Just gave her a dirt path. You follow the little rocks over here, and this is where all the fruit trees are, with a little well. And yeah, just kind of, you know, you'd walk around here, maybe go fish or something like that. All the way over here, got the little duck sitting outside the pond. Now, if you follow this diagonal path up and just to where it ends up meeting here, this is I don't know what I would call this area, but I always have wanted to do a double diagonal bridge on like the same screen like this and have them both in the same view. So it kind of just, you know, lets you choose which way you want to go here if you're wandering around and have, you know, different options of ways to go. You know, I was trying to capture that vibe of like, oh, any way you want to walk instead of just being like harsh directional up, down, left, right turns. You know, you have all these diagonals, which I really like. So if you take this one, it goes back into the city where the 2 homes are. And if you go up here, I tried my best to get this sign because the sign's pointing in every which way direction. I tried to get it in the very center of the map. It technically is like right above it, but I tried to have the sign be as close to the center as I could without being in the way of the path. But I just thought it was funny that the sign that is closest to the center of your island has the most directions that you can walk. So going back over here, if you follow the other diagonal bridge, I have another pretty natural path here. This one's resting right below the museum, but you can follow this around. I have the cosmos flowers here. You know, I know you mentioned something about having to have some type of matching flowers in certain areas, and I just picked some colors. I didn't want to do exact copies of what were on my island, but I did ones that just felt right to me. And yeah, this is the path that was above this sidewalk over here with the tiny library that we're now above. And if we backtrack and go back to, you know, this intersection of all these different which ways we can go, we have one of the entrances to the museum, kind of. This is where the little flower garden is of every flower in the game. I know you wanted one similar to mine. You know, the layout is pretty much similar to mine, but I actually changed the colors up a little bit differently compared to how I had them on mine. So yeah, it's basically the same thing, but, you know, the colors are rearranged a little bit differently. Following this all the way to the end, you can see the sign that's pointing to the museum. You can go up here, but if you go to the left, this will bring you back down to where the farm is. So, you know, a bunch of different ways to get around. I tried to utilize the inclines and different bridges and stuff to the best that I could, so you didn't kind of get stuck in one area. You know, you'll always have a way that you can get out or go somewhere else. If you follow this path up here you will find a river top that's on the 3rd story. I think there are some fish that are exclusive to the top of the 3rd levels and rivers and stuff like that. So here you should be able to get all of those. I wanted to make sure you had access to all of the collectible fish in the game, as well as the bugs too. I believe I made it so that you can get everything in case you decide to get them. But here's one of the entrances to the museum area. Kitsunite requested, I forgot to say this in the video, but she wanted a slightly Japanese themed museum. Not like an in-your-face Japanese, like everything about it is Japanese inspired, but kind of like I pretended that they were doing like a special like exhibit with it and just have like, you know, some subtle things outside the museum for this week or something like that. And I thought that matched pretty well with the whole like cherry blossom vibe. So yeah, I just have some subtle things here. You know, the benches are here, but like the pond and the different lamps and this pine tree right here with the cherry blossom sticks, thought it all went well together. So yeah, and then there's another way to exit or enter right here. Here we have Kitsunite's house. These are just all the fossils that I dug up. I didn't want them to be in the way when I was trying to, you know, make your island, so I just kept them here the entire time. But very, very subtle. I'm not really good at decorating my own home when it comes to, you know, like if you look at my island, I'm not really good at decorating it. So I try to just keep it simple and match the vibe of the rest of the island. You know, I have your favorite flower here. At nighttime, this lamp kind of matches the flowers as well, and the purple roof and all that stuff. Try to go purple with this little gazebo, and then, you know, just have a little pond stone that matches the whole vibe of the island, gold rose, things like that. Kitsunite actually requested that I didn't do the interiors, just the exteriors. So her house, there's nothing done on the inside, so it is for her to enjoy and design when she wants to do that. So did not open any of your mail either. So if you open up your mailbox and there's 1,000 pieces of mail, it's because I did not touch it. So all right, and walking down to the final area that has been probably the biggest secret. For no reason whatsoever, I just, you know, didn't record any footage of me making this, but here is the bamboo forest campsite that you requested. I have the sign out front here to say that it's a campsite. You know, I have different sized cherry blossom trees to kind of be on theme with the rest of the island, kind of weaved in between all of the bamboo trees as well. So, and then there's different bamboo items like this deer scare, this little doll thing that pops up. That's pretty funny. And then, yeah, if you ever have a villager, this is where your campsite is. But one thing I really liked about this area, and I decided to do the campsite here, was because of this back stone part you have. It was kind of something I hadn't really seen before on an island, or at least like one that I've never really noticed. I didn't realize how like large this was, and I thought it was really cool. I don't think fish appear all the way up here, but if they do, or if you could like throw bait down, I thought this would be a really cool place to do that. So if you walk over to the right here, there is another tiny pond that I believe fish can spawn in. I think I made it large enough that it could do that. And then, yeah, kind of more purple flowers, but this dirt path, you know, I put it here. Anywhere that you'd kind of be walking around, but it's not really signified on the map, or like there's no like paths on the ground, I just put dirt paths down, like in case you were walking over here to like go to the beach. Like I tried to just put dirt paths in any place like that. So yeah, I believe that is the whole thing. And here you can see the final side-by-side of my original vision and what your map ended up actually looking like. So, what'd you think? How did I do? By the time you're seeing this video, I've mailed Kitsunite's Switch back to her and hope she has a ton of fun playing in her town. I have never been asked to make someone's entire island for them and really wanted to do a stellar job for her. I didn't ask for any money when the idea came up, but wanted to make sure after the generous donation she sent that she got her money's worth and had her dream island brought to life. I know a lot of people watching this are really eager for a new Animal Crossing game, so if you are too, let me know one thing you're wanting to see in the next game with a comment below. And again, if you want to see more Animal Crossing videos from me, let me know by subscribing and liking the video. I'm CrossingCasey, and I'll see you in the next one.